All right, guys. So here we have it underneath my 1987 928 S4. Just wrapped up the engine mount project, and let me tell you, it was a big, big job. I started actually doing this in my driveway, on the concrete driveway, with the car a few inches from my nose, just jacked up on stands. My neighbor came over and said, "Listen, just come over and use my lift." And he was kind enough to loan me his lift for a couple of weeks while I chipped away at it, and it was a lifesaver. I would have probably broken my back trying to do this on my back in my driveway. It was a tough job on a lift, much less attempting this at home with the car jacked up. So I'll walk you through some of the key things that I did. There's some really good threads on Renlist that you can check out that really gives you the details that you need to replace the engine mounts and some other things. But I'll walk you through some key aspects that I went through. For me, first of all, I dropped the sway bar and actually physically removed the entire sway bar itself, put that off to the side. I also removed the starter because I had the starter rebuilt, so this is a rebuilt starter. And then I dropped the slave, the clutch slave, because I was actually going to also remove the oil pan and put in a brand new oil pan gasket, clean up the inside of the oil pan, put in some new gaskets for the oil level sensor, and so what else did I remove? I also removed the alternator to get to the other oil pan bolts, and after that it's pretty much focusing on the rack, and start off with the rack plate, and then you start taking off the control arm brackets, these U-shaped type brackets, and then also the tow hooks in front, which also couple as brackets for the control arms, the lower control arms. So once that's all out, then you can get your access to the actual cross member bolts and remove those. And I also, of course, have to jack up the engine, or support the engine, I should say, from the top. I used pieces of 4x4 wood, and again, there's a pretty good thread on Renlist about that to support the engine. Once that's done, then you can remove this cross member, and then you have access to the actual mounts themselves, and it's 4 bolts, 17 and a 13 on either side, so 4 per side, 8 in total. And while everything was out, I went ahead and powder coated everything, guys. So lots of powder coating and cleanup. Powder coated the rack plate, the cross member, the sway bar brackets, the control arm brackets front and rear, with the tow hook there, and a lot of cleanup under here because the old oil pan gasket had started to deteriorate, and there was oil seepage under here. So I did a lot of cleanup, spent a lot of time under here making it presentable and clean, kind of how I do it actually, and that's the only way for me. And yeah, and then everything went back in. I also put in brand new bushings for the rack, so you can see that here. And I bought those from 928 Motorsports. A lot of the other pieces were sourced from either 928 Motorsports or 928's R Us, or online through some other vendors. I will say that once the new engine mounts are in, and let me show you the engine mounts. There, you can see them right there. You can see the rubber. Once the engine mounts are in, you have to make sure the engine is actually quite a bit higher. So you have to adjust the height of the engine to get the new, well, not new, but get the cross member back in and sandwiched between the chassis and the control arms. And I really recommend having somebody help you. Otherwise, it's really hard because the cross member is actually pretty heavy, and then there's just so much going on here. Trying to do it by yourself is going to make it a very difficult, somewhat painful process. So having somebody help you while you focus on one side, they could be supporting the other side, goes a long way. So anyway, I hope that helps. And one last parting thought, you can see the little yellow marks on all the nuts and bolts. And that's every time I torque a fastener, I always use my wax pen to let me know that I've torqued it. And so that way I know everything is nice and tight and snug as per the factory specs. So hope this helps. I hope you like the video. There's some more videos coming up on this car in the next few weeks. I'm looking forward to driving it and getting out on the road. Oh yeah, before I let you guys go, I also replaced the rubber bellows on the steering rack. The original ones were cracked badly. And I put in new tie rod ends as well because the rubber boots were also damaged and they were looking pretty rough. So brand new Lemforder tie rod ends and also the boots. So big project, but satisfying to see it all done. And I also replaced this rubber clutch line. The original one was cracked, so that's been replaced, and I bled the clutch, and it's ready to go. So lots of things were done in the last few weeks, and I hope you guys like the video. And stay tuned. Take care.